George.
Okay.
Uh,
All
I
right.
think we are live stream right now.
Terrific.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my podcast YouTube video channel. On my side, on the other side, I have my good friend, Dr. Charles Duray, and Dr. David Epstein. It's an honor and privilege to invite both of you guys to have a quick podcast. We just want to let to know each other about the Pacific company that David is leading. That's called Wonderful Dentistry. Um, Davis, welcome. Charles, welcome.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Luck.
much. Appreciate it. Thanks. It's always a pleasure to be on here. Look, you do great things and amazing things happen as a result from education and dissemination of your information. So I appreciate what you do. And David, it's an honor and privilege. Not only having a pediatric dentist that's been in the field for a long time, so you know a lot of what you've done over the years, but also to hear about what your innovation is and what you do that's so passionate right now.
Well, it's meetings like this that make what I'm doing fun,
That's
and I
nice.
really enjoy it. And Luck, as far as time goes, my time is your time. Being retired has some benefits.
Yeah.
Awesome. Most people, most of you guys know Dr. David Aston. He's been practicing more than 50 decades or 40 decades, you say?
Years.
Yes,
Almost
yes, 50
50 decades. That's a
yeah,
long time.
yeah. No,
You're
no,
looking
sorry.
good, Dave. You're
Uh,
looking good. Right? Yeah.
no, I actually I was in teaching for 18 years, and then in the middle of teaching, I started to practice. So I was actually in practice for 45 years, and I
Wow.
retired when I was 75.
That's fantastic.
Wow, yeah. My mentor retired at the age of 92.
Oh,
He's a
wow.
dentist. Yeah, Dr. Ivan Berger. He just retired just a couple of years ago after the pandemic. But he's still using his brain, consult and educate
Have
other
to.
people.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the most
Lose it.
important.
Use it
Keep
or
your mind.
lose it. Yeah.
Tell
Uh,
us more about the wonderful dentistry. How did you start up, Davis?
Well, Wonderful Dental came about because when I left practice, I realized that I was using a lot of products that could be better, and the kids didn't like a lot of the products that I used. And so I went and found a chemist, actually, who had access to ice cream flavors. And we started testing fluoride varnish with different ice cream flavors. Um, I will tell you, like I was mentioned to Charles before, my test audience, I have 6 grandsons,
great.
and they were my test audience, and they are brutally honest. And if they didn't like something, believe me, I knew it immediately. And so, and we spent about a year trying different flavors and developing different flavors. And we finally came down to a half a dozen flavors that were really delicious. Um, and I started marketing it because I thought, you know, it really wasn't even marketing. I called my friends and I said, listen, I'm trying out some new products. Do you want to give them a try? And it just started, it started sort of growing from that, but it really didn't grow until uh, my youngest, who is, we all 3 of us are engineers, but my youngest son has a master's degree from Parson in graphic design and marketing. And he said, he said, Pop, let me help you out with this. And he started doing some marketing, and the company grew in sales from August of 2016 to February of 2017. We grew 800%. So I figured he has the right formula for marketing, and I let him do his thing. He designed our website, and he's just a very artistic type person. And then a few years into it, we saw that it was growing. The company was becoming a real company. My other son was in New York at the time in the fashion industry, and he was doing logistics. He was chief of operations for a big fashion house in New York. And he did, inventory and shipping and production and insurance, all the things that I hated and my other son hated. And he took over all the logistics. And so the 3 of us together
It's a nice
got this going, and it seems to be doing terrific, and we're growing every day. Um, it's been fun. And by the way, the video that's on there, I wish you would listen to the song, because Luck, you would love this song. And my youngest son wrote this song for the video. Can you do the volume on it?
Have to hit the, yeah, go ahead. No, I don't hear anything.
I don't either.
Hmm.
Maybe you
Oh,
unmute.
we can go to the website and take a look at it. People can go. And it's www.wonderfuldental.com.
Right. That's the name of the company. It's Wonderful Dental.
It's a good name, by the way. Good
Well,
URL.
That sort of evolved from
Very simple.
originally it was going to be Wonderful Fluoride.
Yeah, that's
And
too hard. Wonderful Dental is better.
didn't want to do just fluoride, so it became Wonderful.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Well, that's funny. You put a little candy in there, didn't you?
right. All these things on here, like this, like these bonus points and how to earn bonus points.
That looks like an old menu. Am I right, David? That's an old menu from somewhere, isn't it?
I don't know.
It looks like an old menu style, right?
The son who does the marketing did all of this, did the whole website. So that's his baby and he loves it. And he did a great job. I think I love the site. I think it's very
I think he did a great job too. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's a very happy site. People comment all the time that they like the website because it always makes them smile. So we have one office that took all of our little flavor characters and copied them, put them on a flavor board, so the kids could pick the flavors. And
what's the most popular flavor of all the flavors?
Well, I think for the Profi paste, probably the marshmallow, and then for the varnish, it's a close race. Bubblegum, marshmallow, s'mores has been a big hit.
Wow, good products. Yeah.
Yeah, the chocolate's great. I did a paper for the AARP that didn't get published, but I sent to them, and it was about the importance of fluoride varnish for adults. Medicare does not cover dentistry for adults. And I saw from partly from my own need, I saw that as I became a senior, I needed more and more preventive dentistry because restorations of my mouth at 30 and 40 years old started breaking down. And there was and truthfully, even today, I put fluoride varnish on my teeth once a week.
You do? Okay.
And, because I have it available and it's in my bathroom. But you know what? Because, I had a couple of places. I actually had a place that was interproximal that was started, and I started putting fluoride on once a week, and it hasn't changed now in a year. And so that's been a big bonus. When you understand that the insurance, most seniors don't have dental insurance and Medicare doesn't cover it.
Right.
If they need an implant or a crown, it's a big chunk of their budget.
It is.
And so I'm putting out, that's my latest push now, is to get our general dental practices to start doing more and more fluoride varnish treatments for adults. And I think more and more of the insurance companies are covering it. They see the value in the preventive dentistry for adults.
Good. That's good. Well, I have some new things on the horizon product-wise that, Dave, I'll share with you that are game changers in the industry, that are things that have been around for 100 years that are going to be totally unique and different. So I'm excited. I'll share those with you. It has to do with hygiene too. So the modality of treatment that we have today is going to be different in the future for some things coming out. So it's exciting times.
Yeah. Well, listen, you know what? It's time for dentistry has always been good because it seems to change and evolve, and dentists recognize the value of improved products. I changed things a lot when I was in practice. I was not afraid to try new things. If I didn't like them, I didn't use them. But I always felt like there were smart people out there developing products that could make my job easier and better.
Would you consider yourself, the law of diffusion innovation? Do you consider yourself there's something called the law of diffusion innovation. It talks about early adopters, late adopters, and all that stuff. Would you consider yourself an early adopter of things?
You know what? I think that being in teaching, I was pretty traditional for a long time. And it was really mid-career that I started recognizing the value of evaluating what I was doing and trying to find ways to improve it, even in the way I practiced. So maybe I was sort of a middle.
Why do you think that is? That's interesting. So you're saying like before you were more conservative and you practiced a longer time, you're like, hey, let's try to adopt things maybe a little faster?
Well, I think what happened is that you get in, if you have a procedure and it works, it takes a long time before you really realize that as good as that procedure is, there maybe is a better way of doing it. And I actually learned that from a motivational tape. It says, if you find a better way of doing something, realize that there is a better way, but after that, there's a better way after that. And there will
Yeah,
always be
true.
another better way.
That's true. That's like product launch. When you launch a product, it's like, when is it good enough to launch? In my opinion, it's got to be good enough to launch that it's still effective, and don't launch something that's like it has a product that doesn't work. Some people launch products that don't even work, and they put them out there like, oh, don't worry, we'll just make a better one later. Well, if it doesn't work and it's not scientifically effective, then why do you put it in the first place? So for me, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be enough that people aren't going to buy it and waste their money.
It's a very interesting perspective. And I will tell you that one of the things I learned from Norm was that adding things to fluoride varnish does not in any way enhance the decay reduction. They can say whatever they want. Basically, all of our products are 100% and strictly FDA approved and compliant. So all of the studies apply to our products because we didn't deviate from the right formula. The changes we made that improved it were things that were allowed by the FDA, like the flavor and the viscosity and a few other things. But I think you're right. And a lot of people produce products that they, quote, claim are better, but they don't have the evidence that they're better.
No, I know. But when it comes to FDA, by the way, I don't buy FDA stuff necessarily, because think about NutraSweet. NutraSweet was approved by the FDA, yet they had someone, wasn't it, that was on the board that approved it, that basically had financial gain. And we know NutraSweet's not a good thing. It breaks down at body temperature under formaldehyde, right? So it's like, that's why you can't cook with it. But I think that having FDA approved is probably better than not having something that's FDA approved, right? I mean,
well, if you understand with dentistry, one of the things in order to get FDA approval from the dental council of the FDA, you have to have studies to show that there is, in fact, if you're claiming it reduces decay, show me a study that
clinical studies,
a clinical study that shows reduction of decay. So yes, and I saw that show on the OxyContin, and there was a buy-off with the FDA.
Oh God, wasn't that horrible? That was horrible. Yes, horrible.
Well, that was not based on any clinical studies. That was, what actually happened. But I think with dental products, if the ADA quit approving dental products, there's no more ADA seal of approval on dental products.
There's not? That's gone?
No, gone.
Why is that gone? Interesting.
They decided that they did that. I really can't tell you why, but I know it's gone. If you look up the ADA approved products, they may be doing it still for some commercial products, but I know not for any.
People still put it on their boxes, don't they?
I think so, and
that's interesting.
I'm not sure what the regulation is on it, but I know that they have stopped doing. I asked them about getting ADA stamp of approval for our products. They said they don't do it for dental products.
Interesting. Okay.
That was just
so. Are you saying that your product is FDA approved? What about ADA? Do they need to be approved?
He said they don't do it anymore. Yeah.
They don't approve it, but the FDA is particular about that the product be compliant. They want to see all the ingredients. They want to know what the proportions are, what the percentages are, and if you comply with their formula, they say that the studies are valid, and they will approve it as an effective preventive product.
May I ask, have your product been sold out of the country internationally?
No, you know what? Every country has very specific regulations.
Each individual.
About importing stuff.
And things like that. Yeah.
It was interesting. There was
It's easier, David, though, if you get something here, it's easier to bring it to some other countries.
Yes.
So it's a lot easier. So if you want to go to the Middle East, or you want to go something like Egypt, for example, a lot of these countries in the Middle East, they don't have, they don't manufacture. So they love United States products. Number one is the United States, then Germany, then like Japan, right? So number one is the USA for some of the Middle Eastern countries.
True.
We've talked about it. We just have not really pursued shipping to other countries. Distribution becomes part of the formula. Shipping costs are even
True. You almost have to
Even our
manufacture.
shipping costs to Hawaii and Alaska are expensive.
Mm.
And we have a few offices in Hawaii and Alaska who use Wonderful, but it costs more to ship there. I would say the best thing I can say about what's transforming with Wonderful is we're getting universities, children's hospitals, and children's clinics, who are starting to use the products, and we're getting great feedback. That people don't realize, but children's hospitals are on budgets, and when they can save some money and the clinical staff finds the products are easier to use and better for their patients, they jump on board. And
so I'm going to a board meeting tonight for the Children's Health Association where we donate treatment for pediatric children. Would be something interested? You'd be interested in helping us out? I'm going to a board meeting tonight. I'm a board member for the Children's Health Association for our area in San Diego, and we donate free care for dental for kids of less fortunate need. Would that be something you'd be interested in participating in?
Well, I'd be interested in learning more about it.
I will. Yeah, it's about 100-year-old organization, 1,500-year-old organization. So I'll send you some stuff.
Send me a link. I'd love to read more about it.
Fantastic.
David, what I love about your product is in the website state that when you apply after 10 seconds, it should be dry out and the patient can just close their mouth and should be okay right away, isn't it?
Yes. There's, the question always comes up about, do you dry the teeth before you put the varnish on?
Right.
And the answer is I never dried the teeth. I did use a 2x2 to mop up any, I didn't want to put it on in a puddle of saliva because the saliva does cause it to set. So I wiped the teeth, and I think the biggest mistake most offices make is they try and apply too much at one time. And what happens is that if you pick up too much varnish on the brush, by the time you get past the first 6 teeth, it's already starting to
dry out.
On the brush, and it makes it hard to apply. I tell everybody the product flows so beautifully that if you just pick up a small amount and paint it on the buccal and the occlusal surface, it will flow interproximal, and it'll make it much easier to use, and do 1 quadrant at a time. And we always started with the lower quadrants because the upper quadrants stayed dry. So even if a little saliva started to puddle on the lower, it wasn't so much. I think that people try and rush it. A fluoride treatment can't take more than a minute to do.
Okay.
What about retractors? What about retractors, Dave? Is there any help do you have any retractor systems to go with this that can compare with that?
No, I think that make it as simple as possible. I think just a brush with a small amount. In fact,
but if it doesn't dry and you're applying it and it gets wet, then you bypass the whole process of what you're doing, right?
Oh no, because it's actually the moisture that causes it to set.
That's a catalyst for you. Okay.
That's what causes and if you put on a nice thin coat and there's some saliva, that sets it on the teeth. The FDA did recommend changing the viscosity a couple of years ago, or maybe it was even less. They didn't mandate it, but they said if you make it a little bit thinner so that it flows a little better interproximally, you're going to get better coverage on the teeth. So we changed our formula. We made it a little less viscous, and it seems to be working. I like the new viscosity because it does seem to flow really well.
That's nice. It's probably a balance between flow and sticking, though, too, right? If it's too flowable, then it's not going to stay on the tooth. It's going to drip, right?
No, it's, if you paint on a thin coat, it sets almost immediately when it hits the enamel because there's moisture on the enamel.
I see. So that's why you say don't dry it. That's why I say don't dry it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to. My goal when I put it on was not to try and put it on in a puddle of saliva because that made a mess.
So there's a couple of things I see here that it distinguishes the difference between your product and another product is you said fluoride free.
Right.
Dye free.
That's
titanium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you go over so the taste is this very distinguished ice cream flavor, the fluoride free and the dye free. There's no dye in there. There's no color. And then titanium dioxide free, gluten free. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about your product.
Well, the studies on fluoride prophy paste have shown that including or putting fluoride into the prophy paste has no decay reduction benefit because the prophy paste does not stay in contact with the teeth long enough for there to be any uptake. And besides, the percentages that were used were very low. So when I consulted with Norman Tinenoff at the University of Maryland, he's the chairman of the Department of Pediatric Dentistry. He said, better to leave it out. It's not necessary. It's a waste to put it in. As far as dyes go, I know when I was in practice, a lot of kids had allergies to FD&C red dyes. And certainly all the big big 8 allergens, eggs, dairy.
Yeah, nuts. How about nuts? Yeah, peanuts.
We made sure that none of those were in the products. Yeah. The latest one now that I think they just added was sesame. You see, I think that one of the things that everybody needs to be aware of is that more what happens in their offices is, that's the critical part in allergens with kids in a dental office. Does somebody have something on their clothing that they ate for lunch or something that can cause a reaction with a child? The product itself, I know our products are all sealed in cups, and they're made. They are allergen free, and I get a lot of phone calls about questions about the allergens. But I feel very confident that we are as hypoallergenic, maybe more so than any other products, because I was very aware of that and very conscious of that being a scary thing about practice. An allergic reaction in an office can be very scary.
Can be very life-threatening. What about your manufacturing standards, David? What about your manufacturing standards? Are you in China, not China, or you have standards of regulation and stuff like that? Let's talk about that, because a lot of places are not. So what's your regulations and standard of care that for your making sure your product is safe and consistently good?
All of our products are manufactured in the U.S.
Assembled or manufactured is the difference. Are they made in China and then assembled here?
No, everything is made in.
So the product and the manufacturing are done here.
Right. Everything is made in the U.S. with U.S. products. We were very careful about that. And listen, we all know that half of the stuff we use is manufactured in China.
Oh yeah, more than half.
Right. But in
the end,
dealing with kids and allergies and just basic safety precautions in medical procedures, I just felt more comfortable if we stuck with things that were made in Michigan or Tennessee or Utah. I just felt better about that. So we have limited all of our products to be manufactured in the U.S.
Can I ask you, the idea of prophy paste is to remove stain. So that means that you're saying that we don't need any fluoride application there. So what are the chemical that you would put in those paste in your product?
Well, the paste is basically a medical grade pumice and flavoring and a binder and some sweetener. But we've taken out the fluoride, we've taken out the dyes, we've taken out the titanium dioxide. Titanium dioxide is what makes the paste have that nice pastel colors or white colors. And we've taken out everything that really is not necessary. Prophy paste is great for removing plaque, for removing stain, creating an enamel surface that is ready to absorb fluoride. And that's why after you do a prophy, if you do a fluoride varnish treatment, there's maximum uptake from the fluoride. And I think the fluoride uptake really follows a logarithmic curve. So I don't have a study for this, but just from what I've read, I think 70 to 80% of the effectiveness of fluoride varnish or any fluoride is in the first hour that's on the teeth.
What's the sustainability of that? What's the sustainability? Like once the fluoride is impregnated and done, and let's say it's charged in two-thirds, replacing the hydroxide ion. How long does it stay in there? How long? What's the sustainability of that?
They've measured fluoride in enamel over a long period of time, and what they're saying is probably should be the standard is every 6 months it should be reapplied, and especially you do enhance the effectiveness if you're using a fluoride toothpaste because you're replenishing fluoride that's being leached out. But I think every 6 months for most kids. Kids with high decay rates, we used to do fluoride varnish treatments more frequently, some of them 4 times a year. And I don't think there's any negative to doing it. And I think it has a positive effect.
In all these years of doing pediatric dentistry, haven't you always wondered, like, we're just digging holes in teeth, like, you get the bugs in there, you're taking it out, you're filling it with another structure. You ever thought in the back of your mind, perhaps maybe there's a better way to prevent this that we're not doing, that is not weakening the tooth structure preventively, either preventively taking care of decay, or another way that we don't fill things with a hole, just taking it out? Did it ever cross your mind? And in your experience of years, is there anything you've seen differently that you can do that can improve upon that with children and kids and parents and everything else?
Well, I will tell you, I'll give you 2 views on that. One is that since I've been out of practice, since I've been retired, there's been the introduction now of silver diamine fluoride.
Right. Right.
Okay. And I never had the opportunity to use that, but apparently it arrests active decay. But the downside is it turns the decayed area is very black, and it's not very.
And you got to use glass ionomer or sandwich technique, or
Right. There are ways to use silver diamine fluoride to help stop decay. But I will tell you that in my 50 years of pediatric dentistry, there is no question in my mind that nothing the dentist can do is going to be more effective than helping the parent understand the importance of controlling their child's diet.
Yes.
And there's no
and hygiene habits, right, too. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I don't care if you never brush your teeth.
Yeah, diet, number one.
Diet. It's sugar. It's the frequency of sugar, not even the quantity. It's the frequency.
Okay.
And I stress to parents, in this day and age, I don't have to tell you guys, I had a lot of parents that walked and said, "Oh, my child's a very picky eater," And the bottom line is, no child ever starved himself to death. So if a child is hungry enough, he will eat good food.
Funny.
I had a mother come in with a child who was 3 years old, a little girl with, I think she had like 13 surfaces of decay at 3 years of age. And wow. I said, "Tell me about what this child eats." And the mother says, "Oh, she eats Fruit Loops." I said, "Well, what else?" She says, "No, that's all she likes. She has a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She has a bowl of Fruit Loops, and for snacks."
Not good for diabetes either. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I said to her, "Tomorrow morning, make her an egg for breakfast." She says, "Oh, she won't even look at it." I said, "Well, then take it away. Don't give her anything to lunch, and lunch, give her a hamburger." She doesn't eat meat. Don't have that.
So she's hungry enough, she'll switch, huh? Is what you're saying.
Dinner time, put a shoe in front of her.
I love it. I love it, Dave.
I have the mom that cannot control her daughter to get a Coke, almost like breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever, Coke all the time.
Yeah. And you know what? And that's the parent.
It is the parent. Yeah. You don't buy it. You just don't buy it.
Hey, you know what?
Don't buy it.
My friends always thought that I was too tough as a parent. But you know what? I have kids with no decay. Right. They're 50 years old. And the proof is in the pudding. It worked. And they're very well behaved. They're very well mannered. And you know what? Even as tough as I was, and I am, as I look back, I was not an easy parent. I came home from seeing 50 or 60 kids during the day, and I always was.
Your tolerance was at the limit, right? Your poor kids, right? You come home, right?
But you know what? They are very nice people, and they're well mannered. And you know what? Maybe they didn't get as much candy as the kid down the street, but
well, that's what happened. So the kid down the street. Let's talk about that. So when I was growing up, we had some Coke and stuff at our house, but the friends of mine that didn't, they would come over to our house and ransack our house. Yeah. So they'd come over and they'd eat so much Coke and so much whatever they could get their hands on, they could. So it was like kind of funny, it's like almost like don't give them too much, and then they it's like in the United States, right? You can't drink until a certain age, so it's a big deal here about drinking. But yeah, in Europe, it's like not a big deal, so people just drink, and it's not they don't get these addictions, you know. But anyway,
I have to tell you, Halloween was a big holiday in my house.
was
It
it?
was
I bet, yeah.
it was very popular. But I
They only
remember
got 5 candies though, right? Only 5 pieces each.
no, as much as that we poured it on the table, and everybody got to make a pile by picking a piece at a time. That way, nobody got all the Snickers, and everybody had their pile of candy, and they got to eat as much as they wanted. And then we went and brushed teeth. It's not the quantity of the sugar, guys.
Oh,
It's
I
the
know.
frequency. So
We
if
used
they
to
ate it,
buy back. We used to buy
Halloween,
back the
over.
candy.
You
My
know,
office used to buy back it. Yeah.
the worst thing was the parents who said, "Yeah, we put it in a bowl. We only allow one piece or two pieces every day."
That's
That's the
not a bad
worst
idea.
way to do it.
That's a better way to do it. I like that.
You know, let them eat it.
I don't even do that. I should do that. They keep their bag in their room and they just I keep seeing the rappels all the time and then they fight over what they're getting, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, you know, that's. I will tell you a quick story. When my kids were about 3 and 4 years of age, in order to get over this whole thing of being obsessed with candy, I said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. Every Sunday after lunch, we're going to go to the pharmacy and or over to wherever it was, and you get to buy all the candy that you want, but whatever you buy, you have to eat."
Oh
Okay,
God, that's a good one. That's like all you can eat sushi. I love that.
right. Okay, so they would go, and I thought, okay, this is good. They get all the candy they want Sunday after lunch. They only get it once a week. It cuts out the frequency, and they get their candy. Didn't work. What happened was all week long, all they talked about was what kind of candy they were going to get, and every Sunday they ate so much they got sick.
That's funny.
That didn't work so well.
That's like the people. That's like the parents that the kids smoking. And they're like, "Oh, you're gonna smoke? Okay, well, here's 2 packs, and when you smoke it all one time."
Yeah.
You know, teach you a lesson. You know, you'll never want to do it ever again, right? Here.
Wrong. Well, these are. I really when I and I mean it sincerely. When I was in practice, I beat the parents over the head about diet. That to me was the key to preventing dental
So
disease.
what things, and I already know from when they did studies at my university, what particular foods are the worst foods for kids to eat that you think cause decay? The worst.
I think things that stay on the teeth a long period of time.
Stick, right?
Right. So
Raisins,
things,
right?
well, even worse than that, I think cookies. Have an Oreo cookie. Give your kid an Oreo cookie at 10 in the morning and look at his teeth at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And you're going to see pieces of Oreo cookies stuck in between his teeth. It just doesn't wash out. I think that if you're going to have a candy, I'd rather see the kids have a milk chocolate than a lollipop. Okay, the milk
True,
chocolate.
because they sit on it for a long period of time. It's like a coffee with sugar in it. When you're sipping all day long sugar in the coffee, that's going to cause decay.
Right. A person who has a glass of Coke for lunch, and that's all the Coke they have during the day, is not going to get cavities from that. But the person who sits at their desk with a bottle of Coke and all day long they're sipping on that Coke, they're going to get the cavities. Yeah. So.
Or they wake up in the middle of the night, drink chocolate milk. I had those kind of patients. That was real genius.
Yeah. Hey, I had somebody tell me, he said, you're not supposed to eat in the middle of the night. Why do they put a light in the refrigerator?
That's funny. I never thought of that. Oh, that's good. That's a good one. Hey, Dave, you made me laugh for the day. That was my laugh for the day right there. I love it. That was a good one. That was a good one, Dave. I give you props on that one. That's so funny. I'm gonna go take my light bulb out of the refrigerator now that you said that.
Anyway, but like
by the way, how would you know? How would you know there's a light in the refrigerator at night?
If you don't come over there.
Gotta go in.
You got all your candy in there, don't you, Dave? You hide it in there. All right. So sticky foods that have sugar. I heard that sugar with sour is really bad. The sour sugar candies. Is that true?
If you're talking about
acidity and sugar,
citric flavored candies,
citric candy,
like
right.
lemon, orange are acidic in themselves.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there are any studies that prove it's more damaging, but it stands to logic that probably lemonade is worse than chocolate milk.
Well, we know yogurt's very acidic.
Yeah, probably. And I don't know how much sugar they put in yogurt. I would guess some of the yogurts are as high in sugar as ice cream. So
Is there any food that for dessert that you recommend just adult or kid to eat to maybe to clean up the teeth better, just but by chewing some fruit or vegetable? What are things that you feel like broccoli or carrot, something that it can clean up the teeth?
My kids never really thought of broccoli as a dessert. But I do think that, if you can get your kids to eat fresh fruit, that's very good. Apples, those kinds of things are not going to promote tooth decay, and they're healthy. But you know what? Listen, you got to.
It's
I
all
think that
perspective though. When you bring your kids up and you eat the broccoli, you go, "Oh, this is so good," as opposed to like, being said, a parent that's sensitive with their own foods, is kids gonna have sensitive with their own foods, right? When you
Right.
grow up early and you say, "This is so good, you should try this. It's so really good," and you enjoy, go, "This broccoli tastes so good," as opposed to like broccoli. No, I
you
won't eat
put it,
broccoli.
well, I told a mother today. I was talking to her. I had actually I had some Dupuytren surgery on my hand today, and I was talking to the young lady who's a physical therapist, and I said to her, she was talking about that. I said, she said her kids didn't like a lot of vegetables, and I said to her, I said, one of the things you should do is serve the best. First of all, don't feed the kids 2 hours before dinner because that's going to kill their appetite.
Yeah.
And when they're hungry, the first thing, put the vegetables on their plate first and let them, while they're hungry, let them try it because they're more likely to
That's
taste it.
that's actually clever. Same thing about the starving. It's the whole starving analogy.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good.
Exactly. And so feed
So
the
no
kids.
dessert first. No dessert first in the
You
menu.
know, when I was growing up, there was a diet called the AIDS diet. And you guys don't remember this, AIDS. And all it was a candy. And what you did was you had this piece of candy at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sugar actually killed your appetite, so you ate less. That
Really?
was a that was an actual diet product.
Wow.
So if I tell parents, let your child get hungry, he is more likely to eat good food if he's hungry than if he's not hungry. And I used to hate it when my wife would make a nice meal and the kids didn't want to eat because at 4 o'clock they had a hamburger at McDonald's or something.
I do that sometimes.
Yeah, and you're probably not so hungry for dinner.
I know, and then I got to figure out how to eat it still, because then if I don't, then my wife's like, "I just cooked for no reason." I'd rather
Right,
I'd rather just eat it. I just eat small portions.
right.
I'm
You know
not that
what?
mean today. Shh, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Right? Right? You gotta be careful.
I think that even for adults, for general practitioners, I think dietary counseling is very important.
Yeah.
As you get older, it becomes even
Maybe you
more.
could just take pills. You could just take pharmaceuticals, right? Why would we want to do that? We can just take pharmaceutical pills over taking nutritional supplements and things like that.
Certainly, you
Eating
could
good
probably
food.
get by on vitamins, but hey, I don't think that substitutes for a nice
I'm talking
fillet.
about pharmaceutical pills. Let's just take pharmaceutical pills to solve the problems as opposed to maybe preventatively do the same thing by having food and good diet and everything else, right?
Yeah, right.
And exercise. Much
Uh,
easier that way. But I'm being facetious. I'm being sarcastic, as you know.
of
But
course. And as we get older, you start to realize that meals become very important. They
yes,
become social events as we get older. Our kids grow up and leave the house. We go out with our friends. What do? We go out to dinner and we talk.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and it becomes incumbent upon the individual to watch what he's eating so that one, he doesn't become obese, and so that he doesn't end up with bad teeth, and he stays healthy.
What
You and I both realize that as you get older, nothing is more valuable than your health.
and time and health, right?
I think they're related, but you get the time if you're
They are
healthy.
too. They definitely can be, right? For
Yep.
sure. When you recommend with children, do you tell them to brush their teeth first when they wake up before they eat, or brush it afterwards, or before and afterwards?
Well, you know what? I like the idea that the kids would brush first so that uh, that bedtime mouth taste
All
is
that
gone.
plaque. You don't want to eat Fruit Loops right after you wake up, right? No.
Right. And, they never had time to brush after breakfast. And so it became important that if I could get them to eat something good for breakfast that was nutritious, that wasn't high in sugar, I didn't have to worry about them brushing their teeth afterwards. I think that it starts at a very young age, honestly. Luck and Charles, I will tell you that what I've observed with my own kids was the first 6 months of life are very important in determining a child's taste buds. And if a child, we have a natural predilection for sugar. Breast milk is very sweet, and children.
Fast energy.
There was a study at Yale many years ago where they took sensorized bottles and they put in different concentrations of sugar water. And what they showed was that the more concentrated the sugar water was, the harder the baby sucked on the bottle. So we have a natural predilection to sugar. So that's something that I explained to parents. And I did when a mother came in who was pregnant with another, she had one child and she was pregnant with her second child. I tried to explain to her the importance from birth of controlling that child's diet. Perfect example. My oldest child, my daughter, when the pediatrician said, you can start her on applesauce, we went to the store, we bought some applesauce, and it was very high in sugar. And with my second child, who was born a year later, my first son, my wife said, that's stupid. I'm not buying applesauce cigarettes. I'll make the applesauce. And she made applesauce without sugar in it. You know what? And he loved it just as much. And to this day, my daughter, who is 50-something years old, has a much higher passion for sweets than my sons. So I
started
think
the foundation early is what you're saying.
Right, exactly. I think you train a child's taste buds.
Dave, what we did with my children is that the fingernails. We cut the fingernails really a lot. And it's funny because my son is meticulous with his fingernails. Matter of fact, it's so funny because I found there was a correlation, in my opinion, just observation-wise, and maybe you could agree or disagree with me, but I found that the kids that had the worst decay usually had dirty fingernails. Their hygiene outside was poor. And so I try to coach the parents on making their hygiene outside better, that would translate to them feeling better and taking care of themselves inside. Because I looked at kids that had decay and their fingernails were always filthy.
Interesting. Well, you know what? It really is the day-to-day things that we do for our children that train them in a lifestyle. And it's what they live with every day that as they grow up, they carry those habits forward. My grandkids, I look at how my kids take care of my grandsons, and they are very meticulous about things. And a lot of it came from what my wife primarily did for the kids when they were young in terms of personal hygiene and personal cleanliness and eating habits and all of that. I mean, it was really it was a lifetime of learned behavior, and that really filters down to the next generation.
I think it does. I mean, we were meticulous. My mom was meticulous with my fingers. She's a principal, so you can't get away with anything, right? Yeah. So she came from a family. She was a principal, so my fingernails were always clean. So I translated it to my kids, I think, and then that they're my son even today is not particular with everything, but his fingernails he is, and my wife was studious on that too as well, not just me. So between the two of us, we support each other, and I think that made a big difference.
And I guarantee you, your kids will be that way with themselves and with their kids.
Probably. It's a legacy thing. It transfers down, right? So
we all have our quirks.
That's for sure.
I
don't have any quirks, Dave. What are you talking about? No.
David, I have a question for you in terms of about the tongue tie for the pedo kid. Would you recommend them to be released or leave it there until they get older?
Lasers. They're using lasers early age. Newborns are using it. Yeah.
I think that probably there is some valid clinical evidence that kids who have tongue tie problems, releasing the tongue tie is beneficial, especially for kids that are maybe nursing.
Yeah, nursing. Yeah, they do laser therapy on it.
Right. Very honestly, and before 1990, I didn't know anybody who did tongue tie releases.
Mhm.
I never did them in my office, but then I never had a laser, but I never premedicated kids, and I never had nitrous in my office, and I just felt like I loved dealing with kids and like talking with them, and there were very few kids that I didn't feel like if I spent the time helping them overcome their fears that they couldn't accept dentistry without being drugged or knocked
Dave,
out.
how do you do that? Can you tell me, because I worked on kids for a long time, tell me what the secret sauce is to getting kids to relax so you can treat them. It's trust and rapport, isn't it? Isn't it trust that you have to have and
Yeah.
rapport and everything else? How do you bridge that with a child that's fearful? What do you do? Tell us the methodology on doing that. There's a million dentists out there that don't even treat kids because they don't want to because it's so stressful. What do you do without nitrous and sedation to make a child feel comfortable with you during treatment? That's a great question. I think I'd love to hear your answer with your wisdom.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to understand what the child is fearful of.
Okay.
And there are individual things that you can deal with. The first thing the child is afraid of is being hurt. Okay. And I had no qualms about saying to a child, I promise you, I am not going to hurt you. And I will tell you that if you can't give local anesthetic without feeling a pinch even, then you're not using the right techniques. I think that local anesthetic can be administered absolutely with no pain.
Ow.
And how? One, by using a good topical anesthetic, and the one
Compounded
that
or regular? Compounded or regular?
compounded. Well,
Okay.
actually, I mean, I don't even know if they're still in business, but I used the best topical anesthetic or whatever it's called, the best topical ever. That was the name of it. And I found it at a dental meeting in the 70s. Somebody was selling it. And it
Usually
was
it's compounded. It's compounded anesthetics. Usually a combination of different anesthetics together is
that's
compounded.
what this was. That's
Yeah,
what
that's
this
the
was.
best. That's the best. There's also
Okay.
EMLA, which is not approved in the mouth, but that's another one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I dried the tissue. I put the topical anesthetic on. I left it in place for a minute. People who swab it on for 4 seconds and think it's going to be effective are not.
Mhm.
So you leave it on long enough. I used pressure. I always pressed either on the mandible when I was giving a block or
Pressure
above
how? Pressure how, Dave? What do you
my
mean by
thumb.
pressure? Where?
When
On the
when you
inside, outside, where?
yeah, when you give a mandibular block, don't you
Right.
put a finger on the outside and a finger inside, right on the
Sure.
mandible,
Sure.
and you pull the tissue tight? That was the other thing.
Yeah.
I always, when I taught at the school, I said, when you pop a balloon, if the balloon is fully inflated, all you have to do is touch it with a pin and it pops. If it's only half inflated, you have to push on the pin to pop it. Do you have the picture?
Yeah, I do. I get it. It's smart. But what about the some people have very tight lateral pterygoids and pterygoids, and the space is always different. Sometimes you go and you pop right in, and sometimes a little towers. Some can be the muscle, the location, the angle, right? So when your tissue is loose or flat, do you open the jaw a certain amount of size in order to get that to be taut, or no?
I always told the kids, open as wide as you can.
Okay.
I used my thumb to put pressure on the inside the mouth on the mandible. Okay, so I would literally take my finger, pull the tissue as taut as I could, put pressure on the mandible. I always made sure the bevel was up. Okay, when I was on the syringe, I used a 30 gauge
Why up?
because if you turn the bevel down, then you have to push on the tip to go through the tissue harder. Have you ever taken a pin and put it right under the skin on your finger?
Hmm.
Just take, and you can literally lift up the skin on your finger with a pin with no pain whatsoever. Well, the same thing in the mouth. There's a layer of epithelium of epidermis that if you get a drop of anesthetic below that, it diffuses into the tissue and you can give a painless injection. Admittedly it's more difficult to do with a 3-year-old than a 14-year-old, but I am firmly convinced that there is no reason for a child to experience pain from local anesthetic.
Now, if you say no pain, and then it causes pain, then you just lost trust.
Well, but you know what? It worked. What can I tell you, Charles? You know what? Maybe 1 in 100 injections, the child would feel something.
How about the rate? How about your rate of anesthesia? Did you use a buffing agent? Did you not a buffing agent? Did you do a rate at a faster, slower speed, or what do you say? And lidocaine only, or what did you use?
I'm sorry. I put a couple drops in the tissue and let it sit for about 2 seconds.
You didn't do it all one time. You did a couple drops and let it sit.
Well, I didn't take the syringe out. I just stopped.
You did a couple drops, let it sit. Yeah.
And so it took a couple of seconds, 2 or 3 seconds. I would talk to the kid. When I had this hand surgery today, I told the hand surgeon, I said, listen, I said, when you inject that local anesthetic to my hand, if you push, and he was using probably 10 cc's of a local anesthetic with 5 carpules to numb my hand. I said, if you try and push that all in at once, it's going to hurt like hell.
Right. That's your space.
It's a closed space.
Yeah.
Put some in and allow it to diffuse a little bit, and then you can infiltrate it.
Well, that's like when you do an injection, you do local, all of a sudden start to bloom the tissue. You just don't keep going.
Right. Exactly.
You have to stop, right?
Right. So
going back to your balloon analogy, it's going to pop.
Yeah.
How about verbal communication? What about verbal communication? So I understand your anesthetic technique. What about verbal communication?
Well, you know what? I didn't have any problem saying to a child, listen, I'm going to make your tooth fall asleep. I'm going to try my best so you don't feel anything at all, but you might feel a little something. But I'm going to be.
I was always honest like that too. I always said that. You might feel a little something, but it's going to go away pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt you. You know what? It's not like falling down and skinning your knees or falling off your bike. You know, everything is relative. And I thought, if you talk to kids in language that they understood, they would be fine. I'll tell you a story, one of my favorite stories. I had an 11-year-old girl who came in to have upper bicuspids taken out for her orthodontics. And she was terrified. And we talked her through the anesthetic. I got her numb and everything, I gave it plenty of time for the anesthetic to take effect. I was very careful and tried to be as gentle as I could when I took the bicuspids out. And of course, they were very easy to remove. And she didn't feel anything at all. And I put the gauze in and she sat up and I let her sit there for a couple of minutes to stop the bleeding. And I said, okay, you did great. You're okay to go home. And she got up out of the chair and she stood up and she burst into tears. And I said, Jen, what's the matter? She put her arms around me. She says, thank you for not hurting me.
Oh,
that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
You know what? Things like that is why I love being a children's dentist.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
So
we love our pediatric dentist because when we can't do it, we send it to the pediatric dentist.
Right. And you know
Done.
There were guys in my community, when I got a patient from them, I knew.
Yeah, there was like me. If my pediatric dentist got one, they knew it was going to be a problem.
Is any of your David, any of your kids are pediatric dentists or dentists themselves, orthodontists? Any of them?
Say it again, Luck.
And any of your children are in our profession?
Nope, none of them became dentists, but I will tell you, I have at least a dozen of my patients who are now children's dentists or orthodontists or dentists. I was at the Boston meeting last year, and this girl came up and put her arms around me. She used to be.
That's awesome! Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, she was a
pediatric. That's gotta make you feel so good, right?
Yeah, her mother was a pediatrician and was a good friend, and she became a pediatric dentist. Those are good things,
That's a good deal. That's a good
those
deal.
are the things I miss about practice.
One of my patients that was the worst kid ever to work on is in dentistry. And I'm like, she came to me for dental care. She's an adult. I'm like, what are you doing in dentistry? Oh no, you took such good care of me. I'm like, you're the worst patient ever. You took me 45 minutes just to get you numb. And so they could talking back and forth. No, with the hands up in the air like this and the feet up,
Right.
She became into dental field, for crying out loud, doing surgeries and stuff. It's like, I can't even imagine, Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Charo, David, it's been wonderful.
I gotta go.
I spent with you guys. I really appreciate your time, you both, and it's good to get to know. And thank you for sharing your the inside of your company, Wonderful Dental, right? Wonderful
Yes,
Dentist.
wonderful dental.
Yeah, Wonderful Dental. That's awesome. I this is is there anything that would you want to encourage the dentist pediatric to want to know your product before we close this?
Sure. You know what? Anybody who would like to try a sample, go to the webpage. It's wonderfuldental.com, and there's a button that you can click on for free samples. Look, I really am appreciative of the opportunity to tell people about our company. Like I said, you'll never see us in any of the journals. We don't have a booth at any of the trade shows, because all the money that we can save on those kinds of things we pass on in terms of savings to dental offices, which is to me more important. And it's tough to make $1 in dentistry, and you work for your money, and the last thing you want to do is throw it away and waste it on overpriced products.
That's nice.
Beautiful.
I know what I'm gonna have for dessert. That's a wonderful dental for dessert, right?
You know what? I had a young lady in California called me yesterday, and she said, she says, I'm going to tell you why kids love. I only use the s'mores varnish, and she said I had a kid who was dipping his finger in the cup and eating the varnish out of the cup.
Oh,
so,
hey, can you do me a favor, Dave? Can you make one for me? Can you make a flavor for me?
Oh, sure. What flavor would you like? Scotch?
Tiramisu.
Tiramisu.
Okay. Is that okay?
Actually, you know what? Our chocolate is pretty good. And the s'mores is chocolate and marshmallow, so getting close.
I love it. It's Italian dessert, tiramisu. I like it.
Yeah, right. Put a little coffee in it. Got it.
A little bit of coffee in it. That's what makes the secret. I love coffee. All right.
Yep.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Have
a wonderful day.
Yeah,
thanks.
thank
It
you.
was
Thank
great.
you for your
Speaking
wisdom,
with you
Dave.
guys. Oh, listen, it was a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
I loved every minute of it. Anytime.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, Dave. Have a
Talk
great
to you guys later.